the first of 3 Budget Committee workshops on TVWD's 2021-23 Biennium.
Oh, we lost.
Okay, then. Please remember to use your microphone whenever you're speaking and mute yourself when you're finished. This evening's workshop is in lieu of the traditional Budget Committee's tour of the district facilities. The COVID-19 pandemic made conducting such a tour impractical. So instead, the district's management staff will present information about the district and about the departments they manage. Because this meeting is a workshop, members of the Budget Committee are asked not to deliberate or make decisions. In addition, the Budget Committee will not hold public hearings. However, we will reserve time at the end of the workshop for questions from members of the public if we have any. Members of the public are also welcome to submit written comments regarding any of the information presented during the workshop. Written comments should be directed to Paul Matthews, the district's budget officer and CFO. So, Paul, at this point, I will turn the meeting over to you. And I certainly wish I could see presentations, but I can't.
Well, thank you, President Bagnall, and commissioners and citizens, members of the Budget Committee. I'd like to formally welcome you to our 2021-23 Biennium budget process. This is the kickoff. But before we get too far into it, I just want to thank each of you for your continued participation in the district's budget process. The Oregon local budget law really emphasizes the citizen involvement, and the Budget Committee, and especially the citizen members of the Budget Committee, are an integral part of that. You're what helps the district connect with the needs of the citizens we serve to make sure that our public resources are used in an appropriate way. So we really appreciate your involvement and your assistance as we go through this budget process. One thing that's we're very fortunate is just the continuity that we've had with the Budget Committee members. And each of you, many of you have been on the Budget Committee for quite some time. I don't know if we would have to ask Commissioner Doan or Commissioner Duggan or President Bagnall who's been on the committee the longest, because I certainly don't know. But I think it's either Craig or John that have been the citizen members certainly for the longest period of time. And your continued efforts and your assistance to the district is appreciated, and it really serves all the citizens of the district very well. So I just want to take an opportunity to thank you for that. This is going to be a different sort of a workshop. As President Bagnall indicated, we're doing a virtual Budget Committee tour. You might remember that we would get together and jump in a van, go see some of the district's facilities. We're not going to be doing that. But we do have 3 workshops in the formal Budget Committee meeting. And on the presentation you see here, we're at workshop number 1, March 23rd. We'll have a following workshop on April 8th, and then April 22nd, and then the Budget Committee meeting will follow on May 25th. And the board will then be able to take action at its regular meeting in June. So the overall process is very similar to what we've done in the past, except for this first meeting. So we'll start with just a few introductions. First of all, this is, many of you know that Todd Burton has retired from the district. In fact, our long-serving budget officer retired just after the last budget was completed. And not only was Todd an integral part of the budget process, but he served as yes?
No, Debbie, Debbie, please hang up on me. Thanks.
Are we good? Sounds like we have a full connection.
I'm live.
Excellent. So President Bagnall, I was talking about Todd Burton's retirement and the fact that he was our long-serving budget officer, but Todd also had a particular role here at the district in this process. He was what I would describe as our chief worrying officer, and he his attention to detail and his ability to manage all these affairs was just truly outstanding, and we're going to miss him. And so I ask for your patience as we work through kind of a Toddless process that we're doing here. And you know, he really did bring a sense of professionalism to our budget process. and is truly missed. So I'm standing in for Todd, the bottom line. The other introduction I'd like to make is to our new CEO. As you know, Mark Knudsen retired. Tom Hickman assumed the role of CEO just in time to enjoy our unprecedented pandemic. I don't want to steal Tom's thunder. He'll be presenting about himself a little bit later, but Tom is new to the budget process here as well. So following these introductions, such as they are, I'll give sort of the standard budget committee orientation, some of the things that President Bagnall talked about. Then we'll turn over to Tom, where he will give the CEO's vision, and then each department manager will present overview of their department activities. Then we'll have a few closing remarks, and then President Bagnall will adjourn the meeting. So real quick, just where are we? This is Budget Committee Workshop 1. I show a picture here from one of our Budget Committee tours, and that's really, as we've said, this is in lieu of the tour. This is our attempt of having a virtual tour. Usually we enjoyed some of Oregon's liquid sunshine. This was taken a few years ago, and I think this was when Commissioner Sanders was still a Budget Committee member, but I may be wrong about that. Rather than doing a tour, we're going to do a show and tell from each of the department managers, where we're going to get up and we're going to have an opportunity to talk about our departments and tell you a little bit about what we're doing, some of the challenges that we faced, and where this is all going. It wouldn't be a budget presentation if we didn't talk about Oregon local budget law. I'm not going to get into the details of it. You're all been through this process quite a bit. The whole purpose of Oregon budget law is to standardize the procedures to make sure that we get adequate public input, and that's why we're so happy to have our citizen budget committee members. And as President Bagnall indicated, this is not a budget committee meeting. This is a workshop, so the budget committee members should not deliberate outside of that formal meeting, which will be later in May. And of course, the district follows Oregon local budget law because it is mandatory. So where are we in the process? There are 4 critical steps to this. First is the development of the requested budget, which management is working on now. These are the department level request that then goes to the budget officer and of course with the CEO. We then prepare a proposed budget, which we then present to the budget committee. The budget committee then approves a budget, which is then forwarded to the Board of Commissioners, and that in June will be the budget that they can then adopt. So it's our standard 4-step process. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Hickman. Again, he joined us just as we were wrapping up the budget process. I think he actually attended the adoption process that the board undertook. But with that, Tom, please take it away.
Thank you, Paul. So good evening to the Budget Committee. I wish we could be meeting in person, but I appreciate everyone being patient with us and working through our virtual environment through this COVID event. So a little bit for those that you don't know about my background, I worked for the city of Bend for 14 and a half years. And as Paul mentioned, started here August 1st, 2019. And I believe I had a chance to briefly meet all of you as you formally adopted the budget just before I started. Prior to me working with the city of Bend, I was an engineering consultant with David Evans and Associates, and then prior to that with a firm down in Sacramento, California called MBK Engineers. Almost my entire career was in some aspect of the water discipline. The very later part of my career got a little bit more into transportation stuff, which frankly wasn't my cup of tea. So it's why I'm here. So let's go to the next slide, please. So we are, I know the situation we're in is unfamiliar financial situation for the district, although it has been familiar to me since I have started, unfortunately. So we've had some unfavorable developments since the summer of 2019. Our water sales have been down fairly significant, which in turn has impacted our revenues. And along with that, of course, the pandemic has impacted our SDCs. So all aspects of our revenues are down from what we forecasted. And then on top of that, we're seeing that we have customers that are struggling as well. And we're seeing our collections, our collection need is increasing. We have a number of customers that has increased over time that are struggling to keep up with paying their water bill. So these are all have been a challenge, and you're going to hear a lot about these tonight as we move forward through the presentation and certainly in the following budget committee meetings. But it's not all been bad. We've had some favorable developments. One is that our operating expenses are lower, in large part due to the pandemic. We've held back on filling positions. We've certainly held back on obvious things like travel and training for obvious reasons. And then made a lot of strategic delays of investments in certain projects, trying to help us through this financial situation. Our partnerships are improving, so it's been a large part of my effort is to been working with our partners and improving some of those relationships. And I'm happy to say that they are improving, and we are working pretty well together. It doesn't mean we don't have our challenges or our differences. We do, but we're working through those better now than certainly when I first came on board. And then the staff morale continues to be strong. I've been meeting with staff, and I have to say I'm just humbled by the staff here at every level of the organization. They've just been fantastic to work with and are very committed and passionate people that are dedicated to providing reliable water supply and high quality water supply to our customers. Next slide, please. So the state of the district successes. Well, since I've been here, we implemented the new governance for the WWSS, the Willamette Water Supply System, and that's in large part due to Dave Kraska and his team. They've done a great job with that and getting that up and running and keeping it running. And very happy to see how that has matured over the last year. When I first started, I think it was the first day or two I was on the job, I signed our initial WIFIA loan agreement. And then it wasn't, probably 7-8 months later, was able to sign the re-execution of that loan agreement, where we got a much more favorable rate on that loan. So that was all fantastic news, and that was all due to Paul and his team, that they really worked very hard on making that all happen. And then we've managed to continue to operate under this pandemic. We went from all being in office in person to working remotely in a very short time frame, and we've managed to be able to continue to keep doing everything we need to do to run the district while doing so. So that was a bit of a little bit of a shocker to walk into a new organization and hitting the 6-month mark, trying to figure out how do you reconfigure to run this district remotely. So, and then we've made progress on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So this is something that certainly there's been a desire by many at the staff that have wanted to be taking this on, including our HR director, Amy Blue, who you'll hear from later tonight, talking about this. We've certainly had a number of discussions and some training with staff, and are moving forward on this. And then development of the leadership team. So prior to the pandemic, we began to do some workshops, we did some training, and unfortunately, right as we were reaching a crescendo of that training, the pandemic hit, and that kind of development and training really needs to be in person. So we'll pick that back up once we're through this and we're all able to work together safely again. Challenges, well, I've already mentioned it, the pandemic. It has been a significant challenge. Very quickly, I'll mention when I had been here, I don't know, a couple months, and as you know, coming from Bend, I'm used to dealing with snow and ice. So I was asking Amy Blue about, well, what do we do here? Do we shut down? What do we do when you get snow and ice events here? And Amy let me know that they had done that before, and there was a strong advisement from the prior CEO, don't do it again. It's a real mess. Don't ever shut down again. I guess I should have asked Amy, what do we do in a pandemic? It's been quite the challenge for all of us. It's hit every department differently, and you're going to hear that repeatedly tonight. I want to say my hat's off to our HR team and our risk management team. They've really had to move rapidly on all of this, along with IT and all the other departments. But there's been a number of policies that we've had to rapidly implement to address this. I've mentioned the revenue shortfalls that have been a challenge. Nothing like being new on the job and getting hit with revenue shortfalls in a pandemic that happens once in a century. So my timing was good. The partnerships, we've had some challenges along the ways, but like I said, they're improving, and we're making progress there. Implementing the CIS, certainly the pandemic has demonstrated the need that we really needed this. Frankly, we needed this before this whole event happened, and it's highlighted the importance of this project. But it's also made this project very difficult to implement. Working remotely, working with an international vendor remotely has presented some challenges. But we're moving forward, and we hope to have that launched here in about a year. And then we have a lot of project risk and uncertainties. The Willamette Water Supply project is really now picking up its pace. I believe you're going to hear from Dave Kraska here in just a bit that we're going to have, I believe, 12 contracts released for construction this year. As we hit that phase of the project, we face a lot of risk and a lot of uncertainties. Certainly, Dave and his team have tried to identify all that they can, but as you probably all are aware, as we enter into the construction phase of this project, we're almost certainly going to be finding things that we didn't account for or didn't know. And so there's some big risk and uncertainties as we lie ahead there. Next slide, please. So there's 5 major themes for this coming biennium, and this is in large part a result of the work we did prior to the pandemic hitting, We did the management team did extensive work with their staff to do a SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And all of these are targeted towards what we discovered out of that. And what we realize is we definitely need to be making some what we're calling human investment. So there have been a number of cuts in terms of training for staff over the past years. And so we're looking to bring some of that training back. We believe it's critical as the technology is changing for our staff to be trained in that technology and for a future stable career. So we want to prepare our employees to be successful in meeting the future requirements of the district. The other thing is, many of you are probably aware, we used to have a government affairs position. That position was eliminated prior to my arrival to the district. And one of the things that is I'm very aware is that this is a position we need. It is a full-time job to be working with our neighboring utilities, neighboring partners, but also not just in the region, but also even on a larger scale within the state and even on a national level. And this is, I believe, a critical step for us to really be viewed as the regional resource that we are. The other thing that is become very, it's been, become obvious to us here is the need for investment in business intelligence. As we've been working through this pandemic, trying to pull information together has been quite the challenge. It's been time consuming to pull information together. And large part, it's not that we don't have it, it's coming from disparate sources. So the amount of time and energy it's been taking us to pull this information together, verify it, that it is the correct information, has really hampered us. And I think that we all realize we need to streamline this and make some investments to make this kind of thing easier in the future. And we also realize that we need to make some investments in efficiency in our modernization. So CIS is really the first step in that. And it opens up other opportunities for us for other future investments. So you're going to be hearing from Andrew Karlstrom tonight with our customer service department on this, where he'll be talking about a strategy of how we would like to move forward with AMI, our automated meter information. We believe this is a critical time to be looking at that investment and start developing a strategy for how we can bring that technology to our customers. And then we also are looking for long-term strategies to lower the cost of doing business and making decisions with what kind of investments we're making. So you're going to be hearing from Carrie Pack about some of that. She's done phenomenal work with her team, looking at how she can do some reorganization and then also bring some new technology there, not just new, but utilizing some of our existing technology so that it can be of more use to us here in the near future. And then, of course, certainly not least, but last here on the list here is current initiatives. We cannot fail on the current initiatives, and those current initiatives are primarily two major initiatives, and that is the Willamette Water Supply Project. This is one that our customers are counting on, the region is counting on, as well as our partners are all counting on us pulling this off successfully. I'm happy to say that we are on track to get this done and meet that timeline to be delivering Willamette water by mid of 2026. The other big initiative that I've already spoken about is the CIS initiative. We are in the implementation phase of that. You'll be hearing more about that from Andrew Carlstrom tonight. So these are ones we cannot fail. And then, of course, our fundamental mission of delivering high quality, reliable water supply to our customers is also one we cannot fail on. So the current initiatives, while it might be last on this list, it is not the least by any means. And it is the priority. And then everything else falls second to that priority. Next slide, please. So we're going to get into the department presentations. We're going to start with the administration, my department, tonight, just to give you an idea of the layout. What I thought, in lieu of the budget committee being able to do on-site visit, and we talked about a virtual presentation, and I thought it was important that we lay out the different operating departments within the district, what their structure is, how they've done on their budget, what did they get accomplished here in this last budget cycle, as well as what are they planning to do as we move forward. So you're going to see that. I'll admit we are a little bit time constrained, time challenged, because this is a lot of information. We're trying to get it through here in 2.5 hours for you. But we also want to make sure there's opportunity for you to ask questions of each department manager. So we will provide that as well as a break opportunity as we move forward. So with that, let's jump into the next slide, Paul. So my department, pretty small here. Clark Balfour and Catherine DeSalle, she and Clark really helped me keep everything up and running. Many would say that Catherine is actually the one that keeps things running. She is both my right and left hand, and falls under the general services there. And then Clark certainly does his best to keep us out of legal trouble, and has done so since I've been here. Let's go to the next slide. So you can see we originally had forecasted 3.9 million spent to be spent in this biennium. We've spent 2.8. The largest part of that savings at 1.1 million, a significant chunk of it actually comes from the fact that once the pandemic hit, there were 2 positions that Mark Knudsen had put in the budget that were specifically tied to the WWSS, and we've held off on that. So talking with Dave Kraska and the partners, we decided to hold off on hiring those positions. So that represents a big chunk of the savings there. But of course, there's other savings there as well that has resulted in helping our financial position be a little bit better than what it would otherwise. We are not looking, or I'm not looking to add any FTE to my immediate team this biennium. Next slide, please. So some key accomplishments. I've certainly been able to successfully onboard, and as I've mentioned already, built and strengthened partnerships. But a lot of that has been with staff. So I've spent a great deal of time trying to engage and work with staff, even on an individual level, meet with them individually, even through the pandemic. And I think that's gone very well, and continue to work on that, both on the partners and with our staff. I also engaged professional services to assist with the government affairs. I realized this was something that there was no way I could continue on just on my own. And so I've been utilizing Norm Eater, if you know him, to assist with me on that. And he has graciously agreed to help us out. And it's actually at a savings to us to utilize his services rather than hire an FTE. We've adapted business practices to meet the COVID-19 challenges and early on declared an emergency declaration. Again, I have to tell you, there as a new CEO to come into an organization and be declaring that within the first 6 months, there's just a bit of a fear factor there to be doing that. And, it was right out of the gates and has continued. And we also established an EOC, or Emergency Operations Center, early on in this whole pandemic in order to be responsive when we really didn't know the full scale of this and what we were going to have to do. We certainly, we've provided the oversight on the implementation of the COVID response and working with the HR and risk team on all of that. And then collaborated with our partners and other agencies regarding the best practices. So we didn't want to necessarily be on the bleeding edge, but in many cases we were. But finding out what are the partner agencies doing, and are we in line with that? Are we doing anything that's out of line, that kind of thing? And so spent a lot of time working with them on that. Next slide, please. Some current challenges. Well, COVID-19 isn't done yet. I will be very thankful when it is. I'm sure all of you will as well. But the collections plan as we move forward, we are, many of you might, if you saw the Thursday memo or saw the last budget meeting, we are beginning to let customers know we can no longer sustain what we were originally asked to by the governor's office, which was suspend shutoffs. So we are letting our customers know that if they do not engage with us, if they do not work with us, then we will, commence shutoffs. It's really the most effective tool we have to get customers to get their accounts current, and we're going to be re-engaging that. The other big challenge here is the return to work planning, as well as considering a long-term alternate work arrangements. So one of the things here is we've all been working remotely now for the better part of a year. And so there's a bit of, reintegration here that we're going to be going through. Once Washington County changes the threat level to low, which will allow up to 50% of our workforce to come back to the office. We will be doing that on a schedule, A-B schedule. So 1 week the A schedule will be in, the following week the B schedule will come in. But this is also, we've seen that, quite frankly, we have the ability to get our work done and do it remotely. And for many staff, this has been something that they've really enjoyed. And, it's been effective. So it's making us reconsider what our policies are around long-term work arrangements, work from home arrangements are. And we're trying to figure the details of that out now. And then additional challenges. Certainly we face some challenges, not just on our own financially, but even our partner agencies, they're seeing financial issues. So working with them is a bit of a concern when they're having financial challenges. We want to make sure that they can afford the project as much as we can. We're working closely with them on that, but it is a challenge and a little bit of a concern, but we think recent moves we've made will improve those conditions greatly. Next slide. So the goals for our coming biennium, first and foremost, this was something we started on refining. You have to excuse me for a minute. My lights went out in my office because I wasn't moving enough. We have to, we've realized we need to engage professional consultants to help us with the mission, vision, and value statements. This is something I really wanted to do in-house. It's frankly just too much work and it's too important. Once we're back into a more normal operating where we can work together again, this is something we're going to pick up here in this next biennium. The other thing that we want to do is obviously integrate that mission, vision, and values into our culture and really use it to set the course for the future. So let our mission, vision, and values be what set our course. And then you already heard me say that we want to implement a government affairs strategy. Initially, I want to continue to use a consultant to help us really define the public affairs program and the government affairs program component of that work. And so we're clear on what our needs are there. And then as part of that, continue to improve both our internal and external communications. External communications with our customers, we're looking to update our surveys and how we reach out to our customers and making sure we're being effective in how we're reaching our customers and that we're getting meaningful feedback from our customers, as well as internally from our own staff. So we are looking to do both here in this next biennium. And then looking to consolidate the communications and government affairs programs into a single program that will report directly to the CEO. So those are what we'll be working on here in this next biennium. So that is my section of this. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if there are none, I will happily kick this over to Amy Blue, our HR director. But we'll pause for a moment to give any of you a chance to ask any questions if there are any. Okay, not hearing any, so I'm turning this over to Amy Blue. Amy, it's all yours.
Great, thanks, Tom. Good evening, President Bagnall, Board of Commissioners, and Budget Committee members. Even though this slide doesn't particularly show the divisions, you'll see it laid out in the budget that HR and risk management are separate divisions of the Administration Services Department. The larger diagram shows how the divisions are organized. Under risk management is Mike Jacobs, the district's risk management coordinator, who, by the way, was just nominated Employee of the Year for 2020 by his coworkers. And his direct report is Robert Whittam, who is the emergency program coordinator. In HR, we have Carrie Godsey, HR specialist, and Catherine Cruz, HR analyst. The district recorder, Debbie Carper, also reports to me. Next slide, please. This slide shows our projected budget for the biennium and that we currently have 6 full-time employees. Our current staffing level will remain status quo for the upcoming biennium. In the next couple of slides, you will hear me talk about some past and future accomplishments, but I did want to express that none of this is possible without these particular 5 staff that report to me. Next slide, please. Key accomplishments during the biennium. In response to COVID-19, the risk team was involved in the district's initial setup of an incident command structure, and the team developed a COVID-19 exposure control plan. And when we all fled the building last March due to the pandemic, we were responsible for developing and implementing temporary personnel policies. NeoGov Insight was launched in 2019, which is a fully automated recruitment and application tracking module. We have had some challenges in the past with attracting diverse qualified candidates in this competitive labor market. Fortunately, since the NeoGov implementation, we have been reaching a bigger audience and have seen an increase in applications. The district also went live with NeoGov Perform, a performance management software that automates employee evaluations. And we work with managers and supervisors to implement new performance standards for all positions. Next slide, please. Training, events, and programs. As part of the AWWA Northwest Oregon subsection meeting hosted by the district, we assisted with a preparedness and safety fair. And the district participated in the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill, the Oregon Water Wastewater Agency Response Network Functional Exercise, and the Power Disruption Black Sky Exercise. Active shooter training was also introduced to employees. In addition, employees completed online diversity, equity, and inclusion training, also known as the acronym DEI, and we coordinated a team's DEI training led by 2 consultants and hosted a couple of lunch and learns. TVWD engaged in district-wide DISC training to increase awareness of the different communication styles, and we completed the risk and resiliency analysis that was required by the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. Next slide, please. Insurance. By following Special Districts Association of Oregon best practices, the district has saved approximately $30,000 in property casualty insurance premiums, and we successfully reduced our health insurance premiums for the 2020 and 2021 plan years without making any plan changes. Records, we created the Intergovernmental Agreement Oversight process and digitized all historical records in order to increase staff's access for reference, and it serves as a backup for permanent records. Next slide, please. Goals for this coming biennium. Diversity, equity, inclusion. HR will be requesting consultant dollars in the next biennium budget to help guide the district's next steps. And in order to promote an inclusive and welcoming experience for our customers of all backgrounds, HR will be developing a bilingual pay program. Training. The OSHA 10-hour training implementation consists of basic hazard awareness classes for field employees. This training will build on the district's current safety training program. In addition, we will pick up on the active shooter training where we left off when COVID hit. Training sessions will eventually lead to live active shooter drills. And we will continue to offer mandatory and optional training online through Safe Personnel, which is a website that employees can access to do various trainings. Next slide, please. Safety. We will work with the district's emergency planning team to provide the first $25 towards the purchase of an emergency go bag for each employee and develop a list of resources available to build on the go bag. And as the pandemic winds down and more office staff begin to return to the office, the risk team will assist with maintaining a safe workplace that is compliant with the district's exposure control plan. Records. We will work with IT to evaluate Microsoft 365 features to allow for application of retention settings, especially for Microsoft Teams, given its increased use. Next slide, please. All right, can I answer any questions for you at this time? With no questions, I will hand this off to Andrew Carlstrom, TVWD's Customer Service Manager.
Great, thank you, Amy. Well, good evening, President Bagnall and Board of Commissioners and Budget Committee members. I'm Andrew Carlstrom, Customer Service Manager, and I'm going to give you an overview of the department first, looking at the org chart. So we have 4 divisions in the Customer Service Department. We have General Services, we have the Customer Service and Utility Billing, Field Customer Service, and Communications divisions. Included in the General Services division is both the Conservation Program as well as the Business Analyst we have that serves the CIS project. The customer service and utility billing and field customer service divisions provide account and meter maintenance for water service connections, as well as all the web, phone, and field customer service responses, utility billing, and meter reading. These divisions also provide contracted support to other entities, include billing services for clean water services, and both meter reading and billing for the city of Beaverton. The communications division leads the district's publications, branding, external communications, including construction project outreach, social media outreach, and media relations. This division also manages the district's key customer program with large industrial and institutional customers. And I believe our communications supervisor, Andrea Watson, is here tonight. And finally, the conservation program staff administers the implementation of the district's water conservation programs that are consistent with both regional and state requirements, as well as administer residential and commercial customer rebate programs for things like high efficiency toilets and irrigation control systems. All right, next slide, please. All right, in looking at our appropriations versus projected, we did have a difference. Our expenditures for the current biennium are projected to be lower than projections, largely due to savings in personal services. We had some turnover in both customer service and billing, as well as the field customer service divisions. And we also started the CIS-related limited duration positions. Those are the temporary positions later than had been anticipated. We also had other savings in areas such as printing, postage, and training. And at this time, our leak adjustments may also run under budget. Next slide, please. All right, and looking at our key accomplishments during the current biennium, we really have three: operations during COVID, administration outreach of CARES, and then progress towards the new CIS. Taking those one at a time, COVID operations, some of the things that we did were we got people in single-person vehicle assignments. We implemented physical distancing and field equipment pickup and tailgate meetings. And really significantly, we moved the call center almost entirely off-site, and that includes utility billing, except for minimum needed levels on site. And we implemented, with the fantastic assistance of IT, to a new phone system for the call center for customer service agents. And we also changed assignments rather flexibly so we can ensure redundancy and coverage. And through it all, we continued to serve customers. So looking at administration of the CARES relief to customers, due to really effective outreach, we reached a lot of customers in the service area. 27% of the delinquent customers took advantage of this one-time federal source, which was a really high number. The CARES utility assistance effort helped 480 TVWD customers who otherwise would have had their water shut off. And TVWD claimed 52% of the total dollars that were pledged in all of Washington County. One thing we're doing right now is we're tracking subsequent federal utility assistance from both the December and the March relief bills so that TVWD customers can access it for assistance. And finally, a key accomplishment was progress towards a new customer information system, or CIS. This is a major modernization effort for TVWD. This is a partnership project with longstanding utility billing partner Clean Water Services. And what we're doing is we're replacing TVWD's legacy utility billing system with a modern off-the-shelf CIS. The progress we made, we completed the due diligence with the sister system vendor selection process. And then we successfully negotiated a contract for both CIS implementation and long-term services from the vendor, which is Open International. And then we started the implementation late last year. This is a fast-moving project, and I'll have more information for you at the April 8th workshop number 2. But one key point is that TVWD and Clean Water Services will cut over to the new CIS in 2022. All right, next slide, please. All right, so current challenges. Well, COVID, and we have some additional challenges. COVID's been a challenge. Continuity of operations, both office and field. We've had challenges under these new conditions during the pandemic, and that'll continue, but we'll continue serving our community despite these challenges. CIS progress under the same conditions. This has been so far an all virtual implementation project. And as Tom mentioned, this is an international project, and we do have widely distributed and experienced providers. On our vendor side, they have staff in Florida, Canada, and South America. And South America is where most of their technical staff are. On the consultant side, we have staff in Oregon, Colorado, South Carolina, Texas, and Southern California. And we're also moving from an on-premise system to software as a service in the cloud. So I wanted to point out that we chose a very innovative system vendor, and we'll have some of the project to be in person. But if it needs to continue in the virtual space, we'll be successful. Another challenge I'd like to highlight about CIS. This is a foundational modernization. But we have other needs beyond CIS, including AMI or advanced metering infrastructure. That's also a key modernization, also known as smart metering. Some people refer to as that. And also we'll continue to experience increasing customer expectations and needs. CIS is a key ingredient to addressing those needs. And as a side note for you, you may remember a couple years ago, we implemented a new payment processor, Paymentus, about 3 years ago. It was really a solid choice. They're adding more payment options all the time. And when we get to the new customer portal with the CIS, we will have more options for our customers. And finally, customer affordability concerns. So that's a challenge as well. And you may remember the Rate Advisory Committee several years ago made recommendations, some which require better systems and technology, but new programs for low-income customers really will need the engine that the new CIS will provide. But in addition, I wanted to highlight that AMI is, along with the new CIS, is the district's path to monthly billing, which was a RAC recommendation. All right, next slide, please. All right, so our goals for the Biennium, CIS, AMI, and new survey tools. So in terms of the implement the CIS, we're going to be focusing this now and into the next year. Really can't overestimate the importance or overstate the importance of this implementation on the new system. I also want to emphasize that we'll have continuous improvement on the roadmap after go live, as both TVWD and Clean Water Services transition to ongoing operations with the new CIS provider, as well as new capabilities. Developing AMI, as I mentioned, this is on the horizon after CIS. AMI offers benefits to the district and its customers, more efficient operations, near real-time system and metering data, and the ability to implement monthly billing with the new CIS. AMI will be a large and complex project. TVWD will be working on an AMI strategy and project initiation in the upcoming biennium. But importantly, we're also looking for opportunities to partner with other agencies, as well as seek potential federal funding opportunities, for example, from the recently passed relief bill, or also future bills that fund infrastructure projects. And finally, implementing surveys. This will be resourced by the communications division, and we really have two pieces on the external side and on the internal side. On the external side, surveys will allow TVWD to better understand our customers' needs and what they want from their water provider. And on the internal side, working with HR and other district departments, this will help the district better collect and use employee feedback as we continue our journey as an employer of choice. So that's what I have for tonight. Before I pass the presentation to our next presenter, do you have any questions?
This is Marilyn, and I have a question. Just from past experience, I know our customers have a need sometimes to call in and talk to a real human being who knows something about Beaverton and, about the local situation. Is that still going to be kept with all of these changes?
Yes, we'll still have live agents taking calls, Marilyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And irrespective of whether we have a phone tree, we will have people staffing the call center.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, And I would just like to chime in that I am really proud, especially proud of the outreach effort that customer service staff have done under your leadership. I mean, that was quite a statistic that we thought we were able to secure so much of the CARES fund for our customers so that they weren't on the bill. That's really that, and I appreciate it who've been helped. Thank you.
Well, hats off to communications and customer service and billing divisions.
All right.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce your next speaker, which is TVWD's very talented Chief Engineer, Carrie Pack.
I've never had the very talented part. Thanks, Andrew. Good evening, President Bagnall, Commissioners, and the Budget Committee. It's already been a long evening, so I hope to try to keep you entertained here. My name is Carrie Pack. As your Chief Engineer, I'll be providing a brief overview of the Engineering and Operations Department. Our department contains 4 divisions: engineering, water resources, asset management, and water operations. I'll go into each of these departments or divisions more in detail in just a little bit, but next slide. During the past biennium, we've had approximately $25 million in appropriation for our operating budget. We're projecting we're going to spend about $21 million of that. With the difference mostly coming from deferred, strategically determined deferred maintenance activities, as well as unfilled vacancies that we have. We have appropriations for 59 full-time equivalent staff within our department. Right now, we have actually 56 people in those spots. We got 3 vacancies, mostly resulting from retirements during the past couple of years. We will be asking for 1 additional staff during the coming biennium, and we'll go into that a lot more in detail during the second workshop on April 8th. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the Engineering and Operations Department is made up of 4 divisions. Our main mission is to provide reliable delivery of safe drinking water. We accomplish that by planning, designing, constructing, operating, and maintaining our infrastructure. Can you click 1, Paul? Infrastructure that include 23 reservoirs, 13 pump stations to operate within 41 pressure zones with over 750 miles of water mains. We also maintain all of the district facilities and fleet to support our mission. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail for each of our divisions. Next slide, please. In engineering division, the engineering division is responsible for planning, designing, and constructing all capital improvement projects. We are also responsible for all private development services, specifically with design and construction standards, providing plan reviews and construction inspection services and meter sales, fire flow testing, and maintaining and fire flow testing. The engineering division is also responsible for long-range planning efforts, including seismic resiliency planning, water supply planning, master planning, mains replacement program, and working very closely with the Willamette Water Supply Program. The picture that you see on the far right, lower right-hand corner is one of the fire improvement projects that we completed this year at in the Metzger area. That is a auger boring going underneath the Highway 29, Highway 99 by Banging's Restaurant. Most of you probably know that area. That's a 18-inch pipe going across Highway 99. And we were able to complete that project without having to open cut Highway 99, as well as we didn't cause any traffic issues, which I'm sure everybody here, especially me, were very appreciative of. So next slide, please. The Water Resources Division is responsible for all regulatory compliance, water quality monitoring and reporting, water rights management, and source water protection and planning and engagement, and water and system water quality protection through cross-connection control and inspection program. Right now, the source water management aspect of this division's responsibility is somewhat limited, but with the Willamette Supply Program coming online, we will have a program well established and hopefully into implementation in 2026. Next slide, please. The asset management program has been very involved with Willamette program. Matt Oglesby, who's the division manager for this division, has been acting as the TVWD's lead liaison to the program, and the division maintains district structure, grounds, physical or vehicles, equipment, and all of the GIS data, the mapping system. The division is also responsible for the district's asset management program that I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a couple of slides. Next slide, please. The Water Operations Division is the largest division in our department, with 33 staff that perform day-to-day operations and maintenance of the water distribution system. That includes pump stations, reservoirs, hydrants, valves, and other assets. The division also provides locating services for the district's underground utilities, coordinates water purchases from the Portland Water Bureau and the Joint Water Commission, manages district's supervisory control and data acquisition system, also known as SCADA. Construction and maintenance crews perform water system maintenance activities, undertake capital improvement upgrades and replacements, and also responds to water system leaks and other service needs 24 hours a day. This division is also working to prepare for the operation of transmission system for the Willamette program. So we are working really closely with Dave Kraska's team to make sure that we're going to be ready to take over the operations of the program once the construction of the system is completed. The picture on the right is that of Corn Pass PRV station, pressure regulating station, and in a couple of months I'm going to bring some more pictures of what's going on. Some of you might remember that we found a pinhole leak in one of the manifolds in this station. That station right now today is offline, and we have taken the section with the pinhole off, cut it off the system, and are doing some forensic analysis right now as to trying to figure out what exactly is happening, and also looking to send the piece off to the manufacturers so that they can form a new steel pipe on it for us, and so that we can replace the section that's leaking. So next slide, please. So with that as a brief background of what we do, I wanted to highlight some key accomplishments for this biennium. And my screen is really tiny, so I hope you can see a little bit better than me. As you already heard from others that spoke, Amy and Andrew and Tom, I feel that COVID actually has brought out the best of us. We quickly changed our operational practices to keep staff safe while maintaining productivity and keeping everyone actively working. As we moved to single worker mode, we saw an opportunity to do something that has been on the back burner for a long time. That is to collect water quality samples to affect operational changes. With thousands of water quality sampling data, we were able to develop water quality models and change some aspects of our flushing program to provide additional improved water quality. We continue to complete the multi-unit projects, but with appropriate precautions in place to keep everyone safe. Through careful planning, we were able to complete numerous capital improvement projects, including the lobby remodeling project that was started before COVID hit us all. Another major project that I will highlight is Metzger Fire Flow Improvement Project. This project replaced approximately 10,000 feet of 12 and 18-inch pipe. As the name of the project implies, the project will provide sufficient fire flow services in the Metzger area, especially in the Tiger Triangle area, which is seeing significant amount of development right now. We were also able to complete some critical mains replacement projects near the Petty Grove and Oak Hills area. Staff from the entire department has been actively engaged with design efforts for the Willamette program. And in addition, we stood up the Willamette Water Supply System Operations Committee with our partners this biennium. As the program continues to design and construct, our operations staff have been locating and operating completed portions of the program. We are working very closely, as I had mentioned earlier, with the program team to plan a successful water supply integration phase. We believe that this is going to be make or break moment for the district as we bring on a new water supply in 2026. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, COVID will continue to be a major challenge in the coming biennium. We will continue to practice safe distancing requirements in the field, which naturally translates to reduced production rates. In addition, challenges associated with limited budget and increased costs are anticipated for our department, but we will continue to work closely with Willamette program to make sure that aspects of the continuation doesn't fall through the cracks. One area of focus will also include the reviews of emergency and recovery plans. As we've seen during the past year in the Clackamas Basin, water system is vulnerable to not only the Cascadia subduction zone type of earthquake scenarios, they're also vulnerable with fire and ice. So opposite ends of the spectrum, and we just need to be ready for those emergencies and be ready to be to recover as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. So some goals for coming biennium. We're looking to expand the asset management program to better understand the conditions of district assets, and so that we can manage their assets to maintain reliable water delivery and with the minimized service disruptions. We will meet all water quality and regulatory requirements, including work to meet new requirements associated with lead and copper rule revisions. We will continue to develop or deliver projects shown in the capital improvement plan that you're going to see more of on workshop number 2 on April 8th. And that includes replacement of Taylor's Ferry reservoirs and pump station, various mains replacement projects, and other projects specific to WWSS integration. I'm really excited to start the implementation of our SCADA master plan next biennium. This work will be completed in 4-year time span and will include the integration of Shackler program to our critical assets. So some of you may have heard that State of Oregon has joined a Shackler network that provides pre-warning to potential earthquake event. And we will be able to integrate some of those into our operations of our facilities such that we can, depending on what the situation is, we can shut down some of the mechanical equipment such that it doesn't provide damages caused by potential abrupt shutdowns. As well as we already have earthquake shutoff valves in several of our reservoirs already. So we're also, I've mentioned this many times before, but we are going to continue to collaborate for successful completion of the Willamette program, including preparation for water supply integration, system operations and maintenance planning, source water protection planning, and commissioning. So, next slide. Oh, I think next slide is our last one, but I just want to say that it's not always that exciting to talk about continuing current workload. But for our department, for this biennium, that is our theme song. We will continue to focus on delivering safe and reliable drinking water to our customers and be here to answer your calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So as you look at one of our waterworks operator, Bruce Dyke, working on one of the pumps in the Cooper Mountain pump stations, I would be really happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you, Commissioner Bagnall. I saw your
And thank you, Carrie. I finally learned how to do that.
It's fun.
Sherry, did you have a question though? Commissioner Doan raised his hand.
This is Jim Doan. I think it's unique that when everybody in the whole world was having power outages a couple of weeks ago, I suspect we did, but it was so routine that nobody even said anything about it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna brag on some staff. We did lose power in numerous locations, but and we had to, the SCADA communications was down. One of the reasons I'm so excited about moving forward with the SCADA implementation, the master plan for SCADA, is because of what you just said. You know, we had some power outages and communication system down, and our folks had to stay up. One of our folks had to stay up for 24 hours, making sure that the system was functioning correctly. And we have, as you know, we have a diesel generation, diesel power generation in most of our locations. So, one of the guys went around and make sure that all of the facilities had enough diesel to run the generators that were that we had constructed. So yeah, it seemed like, I don't think anybody in TVWD service boundary even realized that anything was going on, because not only did we have a standby generation and an ability to work on it, but we also had people that were mining. Even though the SCADA system had gone down, they had to actually work a little bit harder, but it went off without a glitch. So you're right. We are very, very fortunate.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the preparedness.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Without any additional questions, I think I'm going to hand it over to our CFO, Paul Matthews.
Yes, acting as the budget officer. So what I would like to do is offer ourselves a 9-minute break, just to give everybody a chance to stretch the legs or do whatever you need to do. And we can come back at 7:30. We'll continue on with the presentation. So we'll see you all at 7.